Welcome, affiliate listeners, to another episode of the Affiliated Podcast. I am going to be doing this more remote today. I know we had a great stint when we were in our Diamond Summit of doing in-person events, but we're going to have an amazing discussion today, particularly for anybody out here that is either wanted to understand influence, has influence, or would like to create an audience with influence, and they don't necessarily know what to do or how to monetize that. Well, today we're going to be talking with somebody that's not only an expert in this, they're actively doing it, and they're doing it at a very high level. So with that, you're going to learn some marketing from somebody that is a very skilled content creator themselves. So I love bringing them on because we know they're going to be amazing guests, but they're going to talk about how they took that skill set and are monetizing it so dynamically and so amazing. You just have to listen. So with that, Marc, and it's, oh my gosh, how did I want to rethink your name all of a sudden? But Mawhinney.
I'm not picky. I'm not Mawhinney. You got her.
Mawhinney. Yep. See, I freaked myself out about it when I knew how to say it to begin with. I was like,
I've heard it all. Mawhinney. I've heard Mawhinney. There's no C in there. I'm like, where did you get Mick? So anyways, I always say Ma than Winnie, like Winnie the Pooh or winning. Mawhinney. Yeah.
I have a niece named Winnie, so it should be easy enough for me to remember. But anyway, Marc, great to have you on here. And as I had mentioned to the people, you yourself are a podcaster and a content creator yourself. So as we kind of go in, and we're going to talk about how you're monetizing with. The other thing, guys, there's a really interesting JV model that Marc does that's unique from everybody else's, at least that I've seen. So if we have time, that's a little sprinkle for all you guys to know, another cool little, I guess we'll say, a surprise, an open loop at the end of this podcast. But with that, Marc, why don't you tell everyone a little bit about the podcast that you have, the coaching that you're doing, and how you ended up here. And then we'll go and talk a little bit about your monetization model from there.
Sure. So I've been in the online coaching space since March 2014. So I recently passed the 11-year mark. I say sometimes it feels like 5 years, other times 50, depending on the day, but a little over 11 years.
Well, I'm pretty sure internet years are like dog years. So that 11 is quite a bit longer, right?
I mean, geez, I'm 24 years old. Who would think I'm going gray? And yeah. So that's when I got started. My podcast and my business is called Natural Born Coaches. And it's all around helping coaches get more clients, building their businesses. And my podcast has been running since 2014. We're up to almost 1,000 episodes now with some really interesting folks like yourself. We've recorded one that's going to be released soon with you. And how did I get into it? That's a very long story, but the short version of it is my past life was in real estate. I spent about a decade in real estate right out of university. I built a large real estate business here in Canada. Everything was going great until it all collapsed. And I spent a couple of years sort of wandering the wilderness, so to speak, trying to decide, okay, what do I want to do next? And that's where I was introduced to coaching and what it could do, because that helped give me direction. And I thought, come 2014, hey, I want to get into this myself. I really see what coaching can do. And yeah, the rest is history. Here we are.
Beautiful, man. Well, I love that. And I love, I know we talked before, you've watched some MMA, but I'm a big MMA fan. And this past weekend, they had Alexander Volkanovski, a featherweight, one of the greatest of all time, won back his title. And one of the lines that he said is, adversity is a privilege, after he won that. And I just love that. I'm sure a lot of people loved it. But I think one of the things you just mentioned was so great is, I'm assuming you're talking about the 2008 crash when you went from real estate to, holy crap, what am I going to do? Or whatever time frame that would be equivalent in Canada.
Mine was 2009, but we have a saying in Canada that when America sneezes, it takes a little while till we get a cold, so it catches up. Same thing if there's anything like years ago when the iPhone was released, took a little while to get to Canada. So
that's good to know. I like that. It takes a little while to get a cold. But yeah, so I think one of the things that being said, that massive challenge, what a grateful opportunity that it presented you with, and a real gift that it gave you access to this whole new opportunity, this whole new career, this whole new world, that you've gone off and been very successful. So let's talk a little bit about that with podcasting, coaching, and kind of creating this content stuff. So walk me through kind of the general assets that your business has, and then we'll talk a little bit about, okay, so great, how do you make money off all this? And just walk me through that process.
So, I mean, I'm really big on something I call the 3 pillars strategy. And what I mean by that is you choose just a couple things, 3 pillars, which are places where you can get your message, your offers in front of the right people. And it doesn't mean that you don't do other things, but you're focusing primarily on those. So, for example, with my business, a big three are podcasting. That's my show, Natural Born Coaches, but also going out on shows like we're doing here right now. It's also community. So my Facebook group, The Coaching Jungle, has almost 28,000 members in there now, thecoachingjungle.com, if anyone wants to check it out. And it doesn't mean your community has to be on Facebook. If your target market's not on Facebook, don't build a Facebook group, but that happens to work for me. And then the third pillar is email marketing, but specifically daily emails, which I've been emailing my list daily since April of 2016 and haven't missed a day. So I think it's like 3,300 days of emails, and God knows how many, probably 5,000 emails in that time.
Those fingers have to be sore, Mark. Like, that's a lot of typing, right?
Yeah, well, they're amputated. These are fake hands now. So it doesn't mean, as I said, I don't do other things. I'm on LinkedIn every day, and I do a little bit on YouTube, and yeah, there's Instagram, whatever. But 90% of what I'm doing is focusing on those three pillars. And where that's important is when a bright, shiny object enters my line of sight somewhere, which can happen, as we know, with online entrepreneurs. I'm very, very careful about displacing one of my existing pillars, which are working, for something new. And for example, I don't know, 4 years ago when Clubhouse was the talk of the town and everyone's wanting to get an invite because it was invite only. And, you got to be doing Clubhouse, Mark, you got to be doing Clubhouse. I ignored the siren call of Clubhouse, and I'm glad I did, because I think it's dead or on life support right now with it. But too many online entrepreneurs hear that, oh, gee, everyone's on Clubhouse, I'm going to go over there. Or Threads, oh, wow, I'm going to go to Threads. And they're just all over the place. And I'm very, very disciplined and focused on what's working. I say there's two criteria for your pillars. One, you have to enjoy doing it, because if you don't enjoy doing it, you're not going to consistently take action. I wouldn't be doing the 3,300 plus days of emails if I hated email. And then the other thing is it has to work, because I'm big on, if you're doing something, you should be getting an ROI from it.
Yeah. I love that you're saying that, because it seems like it's a theme that's been going up. Sometimes this happens when we're just, we're interviewing a lot of guests, that these themes percolate up that are unintentional, but maybe it's the universe telling us to pay attention. But I think one of the things you said there is two things that have come up recently with some of our most successful clients. The lack of distractions. We always talk about shiny 20 object syndrome. It's key. I think whether you're the most advanced level because you think this could be my chance at easy money, right? And I think one thing to remember, there really is no such thing as easy money. There's hot markets, there's great opportunities, but they only happen through hard work. So everything truly is still going to come down to the same core concepts. So I love what you're saying. It's like, hey, know your lane, master your lane. You don't need to run off and chase everything, because you're just never going to do anything. You go and chase a Clubhouse, then that's good for a little while, but it collapses. So then you have to go chase another new thing. And then maybe that new thing is Threads, or maybe it's Blue Sky, and then that collapses. Then you go back to Twitter, and you end up spending more time bouncing around than just getting good at one thing, which is really what you need.
There's a great quote, which it reminded me when you mentioned that. And Vicky Murgatroyd, who's going to be on my show very soon, we just recorded with her as well. She had a saying where she said, and I hope I don't butcher it, before you can make money while you sleep, you have to be able to make it while you're awake. And her point being, so many people jump online and that's a dream, right? They wake up and they've got all the PayPal or Stripe notifications of filling their phone, and okay, that's great, but that's probably not going to happen. You got to roll up your sleeves, put the hard work in to selling when you're awake, and then eventually you'll get to that point. But I say I'm an optimist, but I'm a realistic optimist. So I'm not a type of guy that tells the coach I'm working with, like, hey, you're going to make $1 million in the next month working 5 minutes a day. Now you can do very well with coaching, but obviously it takes a little bit of time to ramp up and get everything in place and get the ball rolling.
Yeah, I like that. It says, ultimately, don't be afraid. And that goes to the next thing. The other thing that we've come up, and it's really come up a lot, and I might be driving the word, but I think the mentality is the same, which is you have to become obsessed, right? So you have to find one thing that you like to do. And I think early on, for all those that are listening and thinking, well, I'm bouncing around a lot of stuff, well, pick something or some avenue or some network that you do like, so you could obsess over it. And just like you said, if it was podcasting in this realm, I became obsessed over the content. Thousands, over 1,000 episodes later, like, if you weren't obsessed, you never would have gotten there. You couldn't have built this business to this level if you didn't have that obsession, and that has to come from a level of joy. So I know I've said it multiple times, all these people, but find something in this industry you could obsess over and do it not because you feel like you have to, because you want to. And success will come as long as you pair that obsession with some hard work, for sure.
Yeah, quick story. Funny, we're talking about this today because I recorded a podcast interview earlier today with Craig Duswalt. If you ever wanted it, you should interview him. He's amazing. He was Axl Rose's right-hand man on the Use Your Illusion tour for Guns, a little band, obscure band that you might have heard of, Guns N' Roses.
Yeah, the stories he must have. I can't imagine being Axl Rose's.
He started with Air Supply, doing just a
my goodness,
running or getting them coffee and doing stuff like that. And then he got onto Guns N' Roses, got very close with Axl Rose. He wrote a book. I just happen to have it next to me where I just interviewed him. Here we go. Welcome to my jungle, which stood out to me because I always say to people in the coaching jungle, welcome to the jungle. But Craig was telling me, you would assume that in this book and other places, if he's telling stories from the Guns N' Roses tour, that it's sex, drugs, and rock and roll. It's all partying, women in their suite, all that stuff. And he said it's actually very, very business-like because they're obsessed with their craft, like you're saying. So he was talking about Slash practicing guitar nonstop till fingers are bleeding behind the scenes. Axl Rose was doing voice exercises in a shower before and then after concerts just to get the voice into tip-top shape. And so that's what he learned from them is, hey, these guys are the biggest band in the world at this time. I think it was 91, 94, in that range, those few years. They were huge. And they were yet still obsessing over their craft and getting better and better. And that's something that we can all learn as well.
Yeah, no, I love that. And such a great flip of the switch, because I think you even mentioned before, we see the dream of PayPal notifications happening when we sleep. We see the dream of stadiums and parties and Axl Rose and Slash being rock stars, and we forget the obsession's what gets them there, right? That's the byproduct of hard work, meeting an obsession, meeting talent, meeting all the other factors. But I think that's just really, really great to talk about. So let's bridge away from that and talk a little bit more about the community, because one other thing I really loved that you talked about in these three pillars is the different forms and ways that you're communicating. You have the broad conversational podcast, right, where people get to be a fly on the wall. Then you have the community that I imagine really supports everything around the podcast, right? So this is the people that love it, talking with those individuals, having more of that communal thing. And then you have almost, again, the emails, which is an intimate, different form of communication, again, that you get to have with people on a one-on-one basis. But here it is one-on-one, right? I'm sending something directly to you, even if it's mass, it feels very one-to-one. And the podcasts, they all kind of fit different communication mediums. So with that, I think curious. Well, actually, I'll see if we have time for this one, but we're now more curious. How do you monetize all that? So we have a lot of different areas. I know we talk a lot about email monetization, but it's also different when you have a podcast and you're a content creator. You're not sending an offer every single day. So walk me through kind of your monetization strategy with this overall community and content kind of network that you've created.
It's tough to answer that in a short, concise answer because
it's okay. We can make it long and drawn out. We have time. We're good, Mark.
My stuff is really like an ecosystem. So, for example, if someone starts working with me, I'll say hey, Kyle, how did you find out about me? And usually they'll say, well, I heard I'm on your email list and you mentioned this program one day, but then I also saw you talking about it in the Facebook group and, you mentioned on your podcast too. And I was listening to that. So I take the approach that the online space is so noisy, that particularly now versus 10, 15 years ago, that you have to be in multiple places and just drilling the message home. Don't rely on people stumbling across it the one time. And that's why I like daily emails as opposed to doing, let's say, a big weekly email. I have a client and she's great with what she does. Every Sunday she sends out, it's 2,000 word email. She puts a ton of work into it. And I said to her before, just a thought, I said, why don't you split that up and do 7? You got more than a week's worth of content in here, and then you're hitting them every day. The problem with her approach is if somebody's tied up on Sunday afternoon, they got a picnic with the family, they have other stuff going on, they miss it. All that gold is gone, as opposed to 7 days a week. The chances of them missing all 7 are very low. So I've taken that approach, whether it be email, podcast, with as much as I'm doing, the Facebook group. I err on the side of over posting or over sharing my stuff to the point if someone's not resonating with me, my email list could be larger, but it's a self-purging list. It chases people away if they're like, holy geez, Marc's emailing every day, even though I'm very clear when they opt in, hey, this is a daily email. With my daily emails, I'll start there. I do an offer every single day, a call to action. Now, I don't bounce around every day. Usually I'll go a week at a time to give a runway where I'm talking about something. Sometimes it's an offer for 2 weeks. I'm not doing offer A on Monday, offer B on Tuesday, offer C on Wednesday, and then back to offer A on Thursday or whatever. So there's always a call to action in the emails. The podcast and the community, while I get clients with it, they're more joint venture related because I've got a JV, you mentioned flat fee campaign model, but I also have a VIP perk in the community too, where those members can pay, it's not much, $97 a month, $970 a year, and they get special posting perks in the group too. I should mention that all this stuff was not set up on day one in 2014. It would be it's like I would add stuff on. Oh, gee, this worked. I'm going to experiment here. And this didn't work really well. I won't do this one. And it's taken shape over 11 years, and my business will continue to evolve the next 11 years.
Yeah, well, I love that because when you have that one modality, though, it allows you to build in those layers and build in a healthy way, right? So, it's a lot easier to launch that VIP program when you have a robust existing community that people are already engaging, and that there's a demand that's created by that community even existing, right? So it's easy to dump people into that now, but even I would say sometimes rolling out with that from the get-go might hurt it because you seem inauthentic. It's almost like, hey, you're trying to get more money out of me than just teach me and inform me. Now,
oh, sorry. I was just going to say the group was running for almost a decade before I launched the VIP. And this is where you got to keep your radar up. Full disclosure, was my brother offhand. I talk to him often. He's not a coach, but he's in the online space. He does podcast editing. And he just threw it out there about this VIP. Hey, why don't you have a smaller option? People could pay for this, this, and this, because the JV campaign right now it's 4,000. Sometimes it's 5,000. That's out of some people's budgets, or it's a little bit more they want to take on. And I kind of pushed back a bit. I'm like, I don't know if I want to do it. But late May of 2024, I said, what the heck? Let's bring it in. And here we are, almost a year later, and we've got 80 some VIPs, and it's just going really well. So I'll give him credit. He bugs me that he needs credit for it or whatever, but that was his initial seed there. So
nice. Well, I love that. So, and we'll make sure that it's your idea. You get the credit for it. That was great. But no, so with that though, I think I want to go back to the daily emails. So I found that really interesting as well. And I think I just want to highlight one thing you really said is we get really caught up in assuming that everyone reads everything that we post all the time. And you and I both know that is not true. Even on a very, very engaged list, if you're getting a 40% open rate, people would be high-fiving like crazy, which means 60% of your entire email list didn't even see what you said. And again, I know some people have even higher than that on a really engaged list. They might be at 60%. That still means 40% of people did not receive your message. So when you go daily, where they might not see that one email per week, like you said, there's a good chance they're going to open up one of them that'll catch their eye over that 7-day period. So I really, really like that, not only from a promo standpoint, but just in terms of engaging. The other thing I just want to say is Grant Cardone talks about this. Because he straight up said, he's like, dude, I email as many times as I feel like I need to for whatever's going on. You might hear from me 5 to 6 times a day. And I was like, that's crazy. No one emails that much. Guess what? He 100% does email you that often. And he tells you he's going to email you that often. He says, if you don't like it, unsubscribe. Yeah. And I like what you said. It's forcing the issue that you're either going to engage with me or you're not. I do not care. I'm only looking for people that say yes to this behavior. So I think a lot of times we think we need everything. We don't. We just need the right people. And it's okay to say no to people that aren't going to engage that you want. And if you want to send 5 emails a day, you just better let people know it's going to happen and then do exactly what you say you're going to do. And again, some people might be annoyed, but if you want them to be annoyed and go away, kind of like what you're saying, they will. And you just keep the people that are there that want that content. So that's amazing. So you're going to say something that I want to kind of break down some of the monetization stuff, and we'll circle maybe to the JV thing next, but I just want to break that down a little more of it.
My record's 8 a day, but that was years ago. Now 3 to 5 would be the max on the last day of a big push. So I'm mellowing out in old age. The only thing I'll say with daily emails, if any objection anyone has to starting them, trust me, I had it as well. Ben Settle got me into them, and when he first mentioned, I'm like, oh no, that's gonna annoy people. I can't do it. I decided to give it a try for 30 days. It's kind of like people say to me like, oh, well, I would hate to get daily emails or whatever. It's like with football, with the Super Bowl. There's a pure football fans that don't want to be watching Kendrick Lamar at the halftime and everything else. They just want to watch football, not the Doritos commercials, the halftime show, and all the fluff. That's fine, but there's a reason why Super Bowl ads are selling for millions and millions of dollars. It's because they work. So it doesn't matter if you don't like something. What is the market like? And there's enough people who respond to daily emails. I would highly encourage that people look at it.
Yeah. No, I think that's huge. And like you said, it's you can't you might not do it, but doesn't mean your consumer won't. And I think the last thing I just want to put in there again, just because you email them daily doesn't mean they read them daily, right? So just being there and being present it just makes up for quite a bit. I guess the last thing I'll say is it was really interesting. Somebody that does also runs an email list. They have kind of more of a coaching group, and I was talking to a friend about this group, this email list he's on. I apologize, I can't remember the guy's name, or else I'd credit him for this. But he just would do sometimes 3-4 emails a day. And this guy was just like, I don't know why you do that. Like how's that work? And he goes, well, hey, do you email your partner once a day? And he's like, no, I talk to him multiple times a day. He's like, well, that's what I'm trying to do, is have a conversation. Mm-hmm. I'm not going to do that with just one email a day. So I'm going to send several, because we want to build a relationship. And to do that, you have to communicate more than once a day. And I was like, again, depending on what your goals are and how you're accomplishing it, it makes so much sense. And don't be afraid of irritating people, because I tell you what, if you're irritating people, you're at least creating an emotional response. And that is half the battle. So create an emotional response, give it a try, and it sounds like you'll see a lot of success. So let's talk a little bit about some of the other monetization stuff. So we have the daily email, and we'll talk a little about how you do promos and how you select those for your list. But you also have the podcast, and you have the VIP group. Now, you mentioned too, do you have advanced coaching for people so they can go to one-on-one coaching, I'm assuming, or you have some sort of high-end, whether it's masterminds or something like that. Is it coaching? Do you have masterminds? What's the high-end ticket version of your, I guess, essential model?
One to many is what I'm really focusing on, and that's a 5K. There is an upsell for one-on-one, but the focus is on the one to many. I occasionally do laser coaching, which I won't get into what that is, because that's a whole other episode. But for the most part, the one to many natural born coach programs where I filter people too, because I'm still I'm handling group calls there, and there's more support. It's not just a DIY type thing, but I can help more people than if I'm just doing one-on-one with him, one-on-one with her, one-on-one with him. So yeah, I like the one to many model.
Nice. And so you're mentioning this on like all your podcasts, and I imagine it's probably got some pre-roll ads or mid-roll, or mid-roll ads that are just constantly running that talk about that program. I'm assuming it's also at the end of your emails, even if it's not a part of the CTA, it's some part of the conversation. And then you have it in the group, in the community, where you have your VIP people. Do you also have those that are in the coaching program? Are they interacting in the community as well? I'm curious, kind of just wondering how you kind of basically ascend people. So you have lots of different ways you're mentioning it. Are there any other specific ways that you try and send people to the high ticket? And then we'll finish by talking a little about the JV promos and the stuff that you do there.
So there's two sides to my business. There's a side that's helping coaches get more clients. And then there's a side which is the joint venture partnerships. And that would be the JV with Marc campaigns and also the VIPs. They're very important because there's a lot of people, well, yourself could be a good example, where you're like, yeah, Marc, I'm not looking to be a coach. And so you're one to many, your natural born coach program doesn't apply to me, but you have something that is a service, an offer that's appealing to coaches. bang, then either the JV or the VIP is a perfect fit for you that way. So I mix and match. I don't talk about something all month, 30 days. Usually, like I said, it's a 1 week, maybe 2 weeks where I'm talking about the same thing, and they'll take a breather and move to the other side of it. So I'm working both those halves pretty consistently in there. Now I do have things like the banner and the coaching jungle and ads, like you mentioned in on my podcast, the PSs and daily emails too. But for my main call to action with my daily email goes out to about 8-10 different places. By the way, it's repackaged all over, and that's always on one call to action.
Nice. Okay. And that one call to action goes in the JV side of things. So before we circle back to that, so within the community, can you share a little bit of how you ascend people within the community? So I'm in there, I'm chatting with other people. Like, what are the ways that you try and get people to go from there to whether it's VIP or probably more importantly, the natural born coaching program, if they aren't already in there, and kind of get to that 5 to 6K?
Yeah. So the way I view it, the top of the funnel really is the email list or the Facebook group, because they're free. They're a way to people to get to know, like, and trust me. And then they're exposed to the different offers that I have. There was a lot of rolling up of sleeves and action taken when I launched a VIP, for example. It was late May, early June. So last June, I had a 1 month early bird special. I sent 1,000 messages in that time. Now, I'm not a huge DM type guy. There's some people that do 100 a day or whatever. I prefer to put my effort into my content and a compelling message offer than warm people reach out to me. But I said, I'm going to reach out to people I know. A lot of them were warm messages. And that's how I got my first, like I said, we're up almost 100 people through that process with it. Now, others would consider that to be a lot of work. And it was, don't get me wrong. And I almost made a game of it. So I did a lot of voice notes, which I know some people don't like. I love voice notes. And I had it down. I could send you a message at Kyle in 1 minute. It's not a 10-minute long big speech or whatever. And that worked really well with it. But yeah, the first step's to get them into my world. And really, I get warm people reaching out to me. I'm not an arm twisty Grant Cardone, follow up every single day till they tell you no or to F off or whatever. I'm like, no, I'm not going to chase someone because it's not going to make a good experience if we do start working together. So primarily the people coming into my world are warmer, or they've, that old stat, it takes however many 7 hours of exposure, I think, to purchase from someone and a certain number of touches and so on. That's really my business in a nutshell.
Nice. Okay. I love that. And I think a lot of people, we get stuck in this DR world where it feels like you have to acquire with the first impression every single time, and anything outside that is a loss. But I just love when you're talk about that, especially with higher ticket or a trust-based business. And I even say now people should invest a lot more in how can I build and gain trust without them having to pay me, or at least paying me a lot less so I could charge a lot more. Because right now, trust is a part that you can't really get from people very easily. So finding a way to build that and build it with a community, whether it's afterwards, it doesn't have to be Facebook. Like I said, it's wherever they happen to be meeting is immensely valuable, or an email list, and delivering value first allows you to purchase and get a lot more in the back end. So let's now talk a little bit about what we're doing on a JV sample, because you build things a little bit differently. And I actually think this is an area where a lot of creators kind of miss the mark in terms of what they can be doing from a monetization standpoint. But you mentioned there's lots of different ways. So walk me through what you do on your JV deals. It's a little bit different than when you see other people structuring.
So what I'm seeing in the JV world is, I'm not saying this applies across the board, by the way. There are people who are doing very well with the other model besides mine, but usually there's a lot of, I say, lukewarm JVs where it's something like, hey, Mike, how about I email my list, once or twice, or put a few posts up for your offer, and then you do the same for me, or we'll, pay this commission percentage or whatever. And I didn't like the lukewarm model. So it was probably 6 years ago-ish that I said, I'm going to do it with a flat fee where the partner pays me X amount, they keep 100% of sales, but I promote the heck out of it. It's not a case where I say, okay, pay me $4,000 or $5,000 and I'll send an email out or whatever. I really hammer it for that. I say it's a week. It's a minimum 7 days. It's often 8 or 9 days. So with my JV campaign, it starts off, we're doing one this week that's this way. The first thing is they're on my podcast, an episode of Natural Born Coaches, kicks it off on Monday morning. Then every day for the next week, there's daily emails to my list. There's daily all across social media. We do a bunch of Facebook Lives. They have extra posting privileges in the coaching jungle, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. So it is a lot of work in that time. And we're directing everyone to one place. So we don't have 4 different calls to action where, I'll help the partner build their email list and I'll help them sell that $19 ebook or report, and then we'll do this. It's usually going to a live webinar, not always, but I always want to have one point of attack that we're hammering. And that's the way that it works for mine. If they make $1 million from it, no one's made $1 million, but they keep everything minus the flat fee that I charge.
Nice. Well, what I like about it, because it's similar to what you see from like a sponsorship model, but a sponsorship model will get you, I will say these words, you give me a generalized script on my podcast for the next month. There's nothing else with that. It's not really invested in, but what you're saying is like, no, this is an all in where you give a flat fee and you get, the full exposure. You're getting the podcast, you're getting the emails for, like you said, 7 minimum, but 9 to 10 days potentially. And then you get those socials in there. So you really get like full blitz of awareness and exposure to hopefully a very, very, if that's an audience that you need to talk to, a perfect audience with trust and credibility. And you also get the repeats of having that multiple times to get those multiple touch points. Yeah. I imagine that has a very successful impact on the conversions. And obviously you still have to have the right product, but boy, that I could imagine the ROAS has to be massive for a lot of the people that are working with you.
Well, what I did, to be honest, because obviously I want partners to get as high of an ROI as possible, because then they're going to do more down the road. And ideally we're doing repeat. Some of my partners, Rob Goyette, Terry Levine, I've done 5, 6 JVs with them. What I've done to lengthen the runway and to give more opportunities for sales is everyone doing that JV campaign also gets 1 year of the Coaching Jungle VIP, which is about $1,000 value. So they get 52 weeks of that perk. And then I also have a Marc's list at naturalborncoaches.com, and it's my recommended partners, kind of like an Angie's list, with that thing. And it's split up by niche. The only people who go on that list are ones who've done the JV with Marc campaign. Now, those are affiliate links, and they're not obligated to go in. And that's the only thing I do with affiliate. But if you just did something with me, I would say, hey, Kyle, you have this option. Would you like to have an affiliate link on Marc's list? And I don't know if anyone's ever said no. And then that gives an opportunity for sales down the road. So I had someone last year who we did the JV, 6-7 months later, she got a sale from the list, or sometimes it's from the podcast. Where I like this model is I know some people charge for podcast appearances, which I'm not as big on. Like, hey, a lot of people may charge $3,000-$5,000 for a 20-minute type interview. I want to have as many touch points as possible and chances for them to make sales. So for me, the JV partners get a guaranteed spot on my podcast, which is tricky because my show's booked up so much, but I'm not charging them to be on the podcast, if that makes sense.
Yeah, well, it's a full, like I said, it's a full distribution. You're getting the full effort, which I think makes a big difference when you're looking at those flat fee models. I think a lot of people don't do that. It's flat fee, and then they'll kind of nickel and dime you at all the different places, or even worse, the flat fee, and the only reason they're coming back is because they didn't get ROAS with the efforts on the minimal way that you try it. So, hey, you did it for a podcast. Well, hey, we did that and no one came. And we gave all this money and you gave us something, like, we need more. So then they start posting and doing more out of reaction, not out of an agreement of values. So I think that's really, really amazing. So with that real fast, just as we're getting close on time here, Marc, and you've been so good with your time. This has been fantastic. For those that, I think the one thing for those that are like, hey, this actually sounds really cool. I love what's going on with the flat fee JV, not only the model, but this is an audience that I'd like to be a part of. So you can walk me through and kind of say, hey, here's the demographics, and here are the type of businesses I like to work with that I find that work really well with my audience. That way, if anybody wants to get a hold of you, hopefully they could either reach out to us at affiliated@clickbank.com, or if you'd like to, you could share your contact details and they could reach out to you directly.
Yeah, and so I'll give the overview really quick, and I will say because I do pay referrals. If you're cool with it, Kyle, if people could say that you heard me on this podcast and it was through ClickBank, then I'd be happy to send you a referral. So the people I'm looking for, since my audience is completely coaches, obviously it has to be something that's applicable to coaches. Has to be something good because my name's attached to it. So I'm going to look like crap if you're not good at what you're doing. And this one I'm a little more flexible on, but it should be something that I haven't done an identical one or similar one to recently. So if you're a YouTube ads expert, I've done them before with Alric Hack. We'll say last week I did one with Alric for YouTube ads. I probably wouldn't do one next week on YouTube ads again. It might be a little bit close. So my combined audience is roughly 100,000. That includes social media, Facebook group, email list, etc. And the Facebook group is almost 28,000. So what I would say, if anyone ever wants to chat, sometimes someone reaches out to me for one or the other and they're not the right fit, but I have another option for them. So maybe the JV is not the right fit if they have a lower price offer. Like I've had people trying to sell books, for example, or something that's $100 a month SaaS type thing. I'm like, maybe this isn't the best fit for the JV, but the Coaching Jungle VIP, that's another thing. So some people, I would just say, have a chat with me if they want to book that. So the JV page is jvwithmarc.com, and that's Mark with a C. The Coaching Jungle VIP is myjunglevip.com. And if you want to book a chat with me, it's chatwithmarkm.com. And again, it's Mark with a C, chatwithmarkm.com.
Nice. Okay, perfect. And we'll make sure all those are in the show notes as well, so there's not any confusion or anything like that. People just click instead of if you're like me, I can't listen and type at anything. So
yeah. Or if you're driving, please don't try to jot those down while you're driving.
Please don't. As we were talking before the episode started, both having young drivers out there, please drive safe and don't run into our children. That would be great. That's fantastic. I think a great offer, guys. And for any of those out there, whether it's BizOps software and this fits for you, great guy to work out to. For those that are sitting here thinking, hey, maybe coaching is a realm I'd like to do more of and understand that. Obviously, Natural Born Coaches is a fantastic community. Really appreciate your time, Mark. Appreciate you having me on your podcast as well. Happy to return the favor, and hopefully this isn't the last time we do this because I think the information here was fantastic. So with that, Thomas isn't here. Again, really appreciate your time. We'll make sure to put all the details in the show notes. But what we tell the people is rate, review, subscribe, do all the things. And with Thomas not being here, I will be telling you happy scaling. Until next time, be safe out there. Thanks so much.